Hey guys, Matt here. I want to talk today about the importance of pulse and feeling, feeling in the body and feeling movement as it relates to learning music. Because one thing that I've noticed in some students and some people who are playing the piano, if they have trouble learning and ingraining playing patterns, a lot of times it has to do with the fact that they're focusing on learning the wrong thing. And so one thing that I like to say to students sometimes is you don't actually learn or memorize notes. You learn feelings and sounds, and feelings as in feelings like the feeling of movement and how something feels in your fingers and in your body, and sounds and gesture. In other words, when you're learning something that's a physical habit, you're not learning it analytically as much as you're learning what it feels like. And you can use this to your advantage when you practice, especially by emphasizing pulse in your practice, emphasizing an underlying rhythm and pulse in the body when you're learning something, even if you're learning it at a very slow speed, so that you can integrate the analytical learning, the thinking about what the notes are, what fingers are playing the notes, with actually learning what something feels like. So just as an example, you can pick really anything as an example. I'll play a little bit of a slow movement from a Beethoven Sonata. You may know this. It's a very beautiful. Something like that. I'm playing by memory, so sorry if I missed a note. But you see there's kind of this very nice slow pulse there. And if I were learning that piece and I were just learning the notes, I might just start, say, with this fragment of the. Let's say I was just learning this first chord, this A flat chord, and then falling down to that next inversion of the A flat chord there. And I didn't even know maybe these intermediate notes very well, so I had to kind of go through and figure out what they were, with the music. What I would do then is I would relate that to the pulse of getting from here, and after I got through the first few stages of analytical practice of figuring out the notes, I would then try and relate a small portion of that to the pulse, even if it was under tempo. Let's say I got here and I couldn't quite do that. I would take a step back, analyze what was going on, and then put it within the pulse. You see the difference between when I play it slowly and there's no pulse at all, which is kind of that analytical thinking from one note to the next, versus when I play it with the pulse. See? So there's this back and forth between the need to go slow and think ahead, which is definitely better than playing without knowing what note's coming up because you don't want to form bad habits, but then figuring out what that feels like in the pulse, because it's that pulse, that continuous rhythm that your body's going to hang on to. So if you never get to this point of integrating all of those notes into a movement, and then learning what that movement feels like and how it relates to the sound, you're going to have a lot of trouble memorizing the piece because you're always going to be thinking analytically, here I go C, B flat, A flat, and you're never actually going to get to the part that feels more like you're learning a dance, or you're learning the feel of a gesture or a movement, and you're not going to link that up with how the thing sounds. And so I think that if this is obvious to you, you might be thinking, oh, of course I want to learn how it feels and relate that. But if you have trouble learning pieces and feeling kind of a fluidity of movement, make sure that you're always coupling that analytical part of the practice with how the thing actually feels and sounds when you play it, so that as you repeat, as you practice, and as you woodshed and everything, you're actually you're memorizing and paying attention to the feel, rather than paying attention to the analytical thinking process of kind of what notes next, and only letting that dominate the learning process. So this is kind of my little spiel on how pulse and how feeling and how movement relates to learning a piece. And I hope you find it a little bit helpful in your own practice. Please leave a comment below, and I'd love to hear from you with any comments or questions you'd like me to talk about in future videos. I'll see you next time.